Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, going solo on the show again for you today and bringing you a framework that you can implement directly into your work life and business today that is going to help you create more consistency, get some of your time back, and think about leadership in hopefully a whole new way. If nothing else, is going to add some value into your leadership life. So the concept of today is based off of two words, two S's. This is a framework that we teach at our Thriving Leader program. And one of the most highly rated modules that we do teach, if you will, one of the most highly rated modules. Now, our entire program, the whole Thriving Leader program itself, gets on average over all of our events, when we do our Net Promoter Score survey after our live trainings, we're getting between a 9.2 and a 9.4, about a 9.3 on average across all events. And then we take a deeper look at what are the modules, the frameworks that we teach that perform the best, that are helping people out the most. What are the things that they're actually implementing on the backside of our training that are getting them an ROI on the investment that they've made to be a part of the Thriving Leader training itself. And that module, that framework today, my friends, is the one that we call standards and stewardship. It's two S words, standards and stewardship. When we talk about standards, what we mean is that the standard is the base level for how you exist. It has to be at least this. Around our house, my wife and I have a saying, it has to be this or something better, right? It has to be at this standard, this base level of operation, or it doesn't get to be in the space. Standards are something that we all know that we ought to adhere by, and we have standards for how we communicate. We have standards for how we operate, how we show up in society. We have to set standards sometimes for what time people show up to work and when can they leave. And we have standards for cleanliness, and we have standards for how many parts per million or parts per billion of a certain chemical can there be in your water. There's even a standard for how many mouse pellets can be within your rice pellets, if you will. There are standards across our society for just about everything, and standards in our life really are no different. The challenge that I think most people who want to be thriving leaders is that we don't know always what our standards are. What are our personal standards? Okay. A personal standard could be something like, how connected do you feel in your marriage? A personal standard could be something like, people get to treat me this way or something better, but they don't get to treat me, don't get to talk down to me. They don't get to take advantage of my time, right? That would be an example of a standard. I have a personal standard for how I feel throughout the day, and that's why I work out. That's why I try to eat healthy. That's why I drink a gallon of water every day, right? There is a standard for me for how I want to feel as I go throughout the day. And then I do the things that are in alignment with those particular standards. So the standard for me is being able to show up and be present when I'm working with my clients. So that means I'm on a Zoom call or a coaching call, if it means sitting here making this podcast for you, if it means being in the classroom, when I'm doing those things, there are not other things intruding upon my time, text messages, notifications, emails, phone calls, etc. Those things aren't happening. There's a standard I have for those moments. Likewise, there's a standard for what I get to be like when I'm sitting around with my family. So as an example, within our house, everybody knows it. There is a standard for not having our phones at the dinner table. Nobody brings them to the dinner table because they know that there's a standard for not having that. Now, the other piece behind that standard is the why, right? Behind the standard. More to come on that here in just a second. I want to give you a little statement that kicks me in the butt every single time I say it, every single time I read it, every single time I hear one of my team members say it. And it is this: my standards are my results. Let's say that over. My results. So the results that I have in life, right? We could just measure any results, whether it's sales results, business results, family results, health results, all the above and more. Okay. My results in life, my current results in life are a reflection of my current standards. Okay, let me say that again. My current results in life are a reflection of my current standards. As you hear that, right? Some of you are like, yes, my life is a reflection of my current standards. I have high standards, therefore I have a high quality of life. Some of you heard that and you said, oh crap. I've heard that sometimes. I've looked at myself in the mirror and said that sometimes and said, oh crap, right? Because sometimes we have not been holding ourselves to the standards that we have. Sometimes we've not been holding ourselves to higher standards than than others, and sometimes often because we tend to assimilate with the people that we spend a lot of time with, we tend to lower our standards to meet the median of the group. There's an old saying that says, I become the average of the 5 people I spend the most time with. I become the average of the 5 people I spend the most time with. What does that mean? It means that if you look around at the 5 people who have the most influence over you, the people that you're talking to the most, hanging out with the most, you spend the most time, whether it's at work, church, at home, in your community, your neighborhood, etc. You probably have a lot of the same beliefs as the people that you spend the most time with. You probably have many of the same likes and desires. You probably make very similar money to those people, or you're in a similar job, maybe not the same company, but a similar type of job that requires the same amount of time of you. So these are all things that I think about when I'm thinking about what needs to happen around my standards. So my current results are a reflection of my current standards. As I sit here and think about that, I say, okay, if I want my results to be better, then I have to raise my standards. The fastest way, my friends, that we know how to do this is to assimilate with people who have higher standards than you. If I want a better marriage, then I need to hang out with other married people who have a higher standard for marriage than I do. My wife and I have a coach, a couple coach, right? Literally two leaders who are 10 years ahead of us in life, 10 years ahead of us in business, 10 years ahead of us in marriage, at least. And so, and they have, and we like what we see when we see what they have and how they show up. It has been consistent in every way, shape, and form. We've even had conversations with their kids. Their kids say it's consistent, and they have great, beautiful children. They have a great, beautiful business. They have a great, beautiful life, a great, beautiful ranch. They have a lot of things that we are working towards, aspiring to, and in some ways already living in, but we want to make it even better. And therefore, we spend time with them. We invest money to have access to them, and we work with them in coaching on the regular, working on raising our standards. You can do this in lots of different ways. You want to have a better relationship with the Creator. Find people in your community or in your church who have a great relationship with the Creator and go hang out with them. Take them to coffee. Do things with them. Go help rake their yard this spring and get to know them and have a good conversation. Spend some time with people who, and then find out what are those people who you admire. What are they doing? Right? Always be careful, be wary, because not everybody who you admire is as intentional as you would hope them to be. That's very, very common. But pay attention, have a look around. Just look around and see, okay, who's around, who has a better spiritual life, who has a better health life, who has a better marriage life, who's a better sales manager, sales leader, CEO, vice president, whatever your title is, salesperson. Okay, find people who are great at this. About years ago, I was wanting to raise my sales game. This is going back about 14, 15 years ago. And I got to know a guy by the name of Glenn Stith, who was a retired vice president from Monsanto at the time. And Glenn lived in Ankeny, Iowa, and I could drive through on the way to see some of my clients at the time. And I would buy him lunch and buy him dinners. I'd gotten to know him through a fraternity function, and getting to know him. I would call ahead, a day or two, and I'd say, hey, Glenn, I'm coming through. Can I buy you lunch? Can I buy you dinner? And he would meet with me, and he would give me advice, and he would give me coaching. He would make connections. I would buy him lunch, and that was the deal. Surround yourself with people who have higher standards for how you want to perform in whichever area that you'd like to perform in, and go learn, spend time with them, raise your standards. So standards is the first part of the framework. The second part of the framework is called stewardship. At all of our events, I ask people to define this. What is stewardship? What do you think stewardship is? Most people, the vast majority of people that I've talked to across hundreds and hundreds of people that I've asked this question to, the vast majority of people tell me that stewardship is taking care of what you have been given. Okay. It's taking care of what you have been given. And I think most of us would agree with that. We want to do a good job stewarding the money that we receive. We want to do a good job stewarding the team that we have to take care of. We want to do a good job stewarding the business that we're in charge of, right? We want to do a good job stewarding relationships with customers and so on and so forth, stewarding our children, right? We want to do a good job. And so most people think of it as kind of a one-for-one concept. It's I'm taking care of what I've been given, doing a good job with that, right? I want to be someone who's known as reliable. You can give me a job and I can take care of it. Now, I want to share a parable with you really quick. And that parable is what's called the parable of the talents, right? This is a biblical parable, and many of you will recognize it as I start talking through. But there was a leader, a landowner, okay, the master, if you will. The master was going away on a trip, and he had 3 servants, and each one of those servants was to be given a certain amount of talents, each according to their own ability. So based on their capabilities that he knew of at the time, they would be given a certain amount of talents to take care of while he was away. What is a talent? A talent is an allotment of money. As my pastor has recently informed me, I did not know this most of my life, the talent was like about 80 pounds of gold, or one lifetime's worth of wages, right? If you were to run that out over today's gold price, it's about $3 to $4 million, $3.5 to $4 million worth of gold, depending on the price of gold on a given day. So that's actually pretty accurate when you think about a lifetime's worth of wages, even by today's standards. But a talent, okay, so each one of them was given a talent. So as the master is going away, he gives the first one 5, he gives the second one 2, and he gives the third guy 1. Again, each according to their abilities. So we can assume they've been with him for a while. The guy with 5 probably had more trust. The guy with 5, the guy with 1 was probably newer to the game, had never played it before. So the master goes on a trip. The servants go about, doing their business and taking care of their gold, their talents, the money that they've been given. And then after what we would assume would be some lengthy period of time, the master comes back, and each one of the servants has to come in for their performance review. And so he says, tell me, and obviously I'm paraphrasing this. You can go look this up in the Bible if you want to read the full story verbatim. For the purposes of today, this will work just fine. When they came in for the performance review, the guy who had 5, he comes in, and the boss says, the master says, how did you do? And he said, I've taken my 5 and I've turned it into 10, right? Here's 5 more. And the master says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Come and dine at my table. Come, feast with us, party with us tonight. The next one comes in, the guy who had 2, and he had taken it and turned it into 4. And the one who had 4 was invited to dine at the table. Well done, good and faithful servant. And then the guy who had 1, he comes in, and he is sitting there for his performance review. And the boss says, how'd you do? What'd you do with the talent that I gave you? And he says, master, I knew you to be a hard man, and I was afraid. So I took it and I buried it. Here, I have it for you. I did not lose it. I took care of it. I took good care of what you gave me. And the master looks at him. He says, depart from my sight, you wicked man. Depart from my sight. He didn't lose it. It wasn't less. It was the same amount as when the master had left. But here's the lesson, my friends. Here's the lesson on stewardship. Stewardship is not about just taking care of what you've been given. It's about multiplying. Multiplication is the pathway of the steward to be invited to the positive performance review, to dine with the master. Some of you are in charge of a certain number of people. Some of you are in charge of a certain amount of money. Some of you have children at home. Some of you have spouses at home. As you look around at the things that you've been given, your spouse, your kids, your employees, your coworkers, your relationships, the money, are you taking care of it, not losing it? Or are you multiplying it? It's a great question. It's a great self-reflection question. But that's what it's about. Now, when we put standards and stewardship together, right? Standards is like Standards are the base level, but it's also like if I want to get better, I got to raise my standards. I got to communicate my standards. A lot of people around your organization don't know what the standards are, and you're getting frustrated because they're not meeting the standard, yet it's not clearly defined, excuse me, exactly what those are. And then at the same rate, you've got you think that you've been stewarding. We think that we've been stewarding because I took care of it. I didn't lose it, but I also haven't multiplied it. So I have to think about stewardship in terms of multiplication. And so this is how we take this. We take standards and we look at it through the lens of stewardship. Do the standards that I've set forth in my organization, do the standards that I've set forth in my team, in my house, in my family, for myself, by the way, are these standards designed to multiply the people around me, the things around me, the money around me, the customers around me? Is it designed to multiply everything in my life? Are my standards designed for multiplication, or are they designed for burying your talent in the dirt so that you just don't lose it? I'm going to leave you guys with that today as you think about how to implement this and where to go with this. This has been a Thrive Talk Thursday. I'm your host, Mark Jewell of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. Intentional leaders are great stewards and they have amazing standards. And I hope that today's conversation has leveled up both of those for you. Until next time, thanks for being a listener.